right. Thank you all for being on the call tonight. We're excited to have our guest on here tonight and all of y'all that are on here. But my name is Roger Paschal. I am with Subject to Institute and Real Impact Real Estate Training. So with this call tonight, we are going to introduce everybody here to Amy Sayer. Amy is the owner of August REI Servicing Company. And I'll have her explain what they do and how they do that. And we're going to go ahead and kick this off. Thanks for everybody being on here tonight. But Amy, you have the floor.
Oh, wow, that was quick. Well, thank you for having me, Roger. I didn't know if I'd have thought I thought maybe there were housekeeping things. Well, as I said, my name is Amy. I'm Amy Sayer. I live right outside Dallas and Rockwall. We service all over Texas, Arizona, and I think we're in Tennessee. Yeah, Arizona, Tennessee, mostly Texas, because, we talk slow and it works well for us, and people say what they mean and do what they say. So it works well for us to be in Texas, and we're all from here. August REI is a loan servicing company, as Roger said. We service mortgage loans, owner finance loans. We service hard money loans for lenders. When there's an escrow loan, we service escrow accounts for people, and we do some commercial. So, wife, mother, and I have 3 boys, and launched my youngest one off to college for a sophomore year at Tech. So
what's he majoring in?
This stage, business finance.
All right. Hey, imagine that. Is he going to come into the business with you?
He's asked. I said, well, you have to intern and work someplace else first, so you know businesses and such. And just jump in here. I have people who have worked for me for many, many years, and you have to get the respect of the people you work with. You don't just inherit. Although I was going to say most of my kids know quite a bit about it just because they've always been around it. And it's what I grew up doing. I am the daughter of a real estate appraiser and a broker, and my dad, that's my mother, and my dad was a builder or a rehab construction guy, depending on the economy. So all I know is real estate. I started off by picking up other people's dog poop in the backyard when they bought houses. So I started at the bottom.
All right. Well, let's talk about the process. Let's talk about the process of what your company does. Let's explain to everybody what August REI does. And by the way, anybody on here, if you can, mute yourself, so we don't have any distractions in the background. Thank you. So when we're doing an owner finance or we're doing a wrap, what is your dream client? What do we need to do to make that happen? And tell us exactly what that is.
My dream client? That's a tough one. I would just make sure that a couple of things. That when you look at the note, you double check the math and make sure that the loan amortizes. The dates are correct. On the HUD, that if we're collecting escrow, it's not given to the borrower as a discount against their closing cost. It's not subtracted, that we actually receive the escrow funds when they close. And that there's an insurance policy in place, that we're going to start collecting on it. And the mortgage clause, if it's a wrap, if it's set up correctly for the insurance. And I know you touch on that a lot and teach on that part. So, I mean, when you've brought them over, they've always been set up correctly. So I guess, Roger, you're my dream client.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I don't know about that, but so when we go out, and I know there's some restrictions, and we don't talk about that a lot in my training, and I probably should add that in there. But there are some restrictions that the investor can and cannot do when we're doing an owner finance or we're doing a wrap.
Yep.
And kind of go over some of those little restrictions that we don't need to be involved in.
Well, that you don't need to be involved in. I was going to say one of them that it's really important to us is that that if there's a wrap and there's an underlying debt, that they understand that the escrow is a straight pass through, that you can't actually increase it and make money off of it. Your profit, if you wrap it, is the difference between the underlying mortgage P&I and your borrower's P&I is your profit. One of the requirements is the mortgage statement. So much is required now on just the monthly mortgage statement going to the homeowner that it, has the mailing address, the principal balance, the interest rate, the breakdown of the taxes and the insurance, what the escrow balance is, how the last payment was broken down between principal, interest, if there were any fees. All of that has to be included on the statements that are going out monthly, and they're required to go out monthly. And you're required to apply the payment as of the day you received it. So if it comes in at 4:00, today's Wednesday, and if you're already doing your deposit, you're going to, tomorrow morning when you open your job and you start on Thursday, it's still being applied as Wednesday because that's when you received it. That's why we date stamp everything as it's coming in. So everything's labeled and marked. That's probably one of the big ones.
So, so if I'm going out and I'm owner financing a house or I'm doing a wrap, and I'm explaining to the seller how this process works, there are some restrictions that I really can't get into if I understand right, but I really can't talk to them about mortgage rates or some of those areas, or can I talk to them about here's the interest rate?
You're offering it, aren't you, though? And you have an RMLO. We're on the backside of it. So those parts are already on the paperwork before we ever see it. But one of the things that people can't do is call. If we're making collection calls, we can't have you making a collection call at the same time because then we're in violation of the fair debt collecting rules. And if we're calling to make a collection call, if we're calling in the morning, if we don't leave a message, so if we're calling, really need to get a hold of someone, we call on the first thing in the morning, they don't answer, we don't leave a message if we know we're calling back that day. Because we can only leave a message once or talk to them once. So if we call and it picks up and, our queue for calls that day is lower, they're going to hang up and call back later in the day in hopes of catching someone. And the last time they'll send one is, they'll leave a voicemail towards the end of the day if they're calling. And we'll follow up usually with an email because we can do both, but we can't have us both calling or speaking to them twice in one day. Unless they've called in and said, hey, can you call me back? I have a question. Obviously, that's not a collection call. And all of our phone calls are recorded. And we have to give our mini Miranda, which is saying that, we're a debt collector and any information that we gathered may be used in order to, collect on that payment. Actually, it's a whole little speech, but that was the synopsis of it.
There you go.
But we're required to give that when we make a collection.
So, Amy, I've run into multiple investors over the years that try to do the self-servicing, and I know they're not doing it right because of some of the things they tell me, and some of where they're keeping the escrows or they're doing their escrow themselves. So, what can an investor do, or what can't an investor do? Let's say that.
Well, if there's an underlying debt on the property, if it's a wrap, Texas state law that requires someone to have a servicer. You're not allowed to self-service on a wrap mortgage, or if there's an underlying debt, which is House Bill 42. So that's been in place over a year now. So, I mean, that would be the big one first. And the requirement for escrow is a 2-month reserve. Federal government suggests 2 months, and state of Texas says it is 2 months reserve. So instead of having 14 months, so if you take your taxes, if they're $1,200 divided by 12 and you're collecting $100 a month for taxes, you're not actually. We're required to have a 2-month reserve. So it would be $1,400 is what we'd be collecting for. And that's to provide a cushion as taxes go up and down, mostly up, except for this upcoming year, if we all remember to vote. Taxes predominantly climb up. So if you have that cushion built in, it causes less of a swing on a borrower's payment and actually is better for them. Because the goal is to, have people live in their house and make their payments. One of the other things we see on loans that transfer in is escrow analysis haven't been run for years. Like we're working on one now that came in and hasn't been run for the last 7, but the lender / owner has been paying the taxes and insurance, even though they've been increasing over time, and they're paying them. They never increased the payment. So we're having to go back and break it down 2 ways, whether, this is the escrow shortage if you're wanting to cover it, and this is the negative balance. But, or, what is our plan? Because you don't want to blow someone up with a $7,000 escrow shortfall, because it's not their fault that you didn't run an escrow analysis, because you're required by law to run it at a minimum annually. It's an annual escrow analysis, right in the name. It's once a year. And we will run off-cycle escrow analysis if we have one that came in and we had one that had an exemption on it, and over 65 exemption. So their taxes were really low, and the homeowner passed away and their children inherited. We were still servicing it, and that exemption fell off the mortgage, or off the tax rolls. So we reran the escrow off cycle because the taxes had gone up so drastically. I think they were 85 a year, and we went up to about $5,000. So we immediately ran an escrow analysis to get that back in. Karen's eyes got big on that.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That's a big deal when your taxes.
Is that $85?
Yeah, it was 85. They were disabled and they were over 65 and they had been frozen. And they were in Dallas County, and they paid $85, and it went to a little over $5,000. So obviously, when we got those proposed, because proposed taxes come out in April, we pull proposed just to make sure that they're in line with what they were the year before, because they're not certified values yet. And we're also looking to see if there have been any rollbacks. And a rollback is when someone has a homestead or something falls off. So if you have somebody who bought their house in July and it had a homestead when taxes came due, but obviously Dallas County caught it later, hey, you bought this house in July, they do what's called a rollback. There's my little finger. They roll back the taxes for the entire year and remove the exemption. And we have homeowners who don't want to tell us they received this bill that they need to pay another $2,300 because they think somehow if they don't tell anyone, it doesn't happen, or it might go away. So we go through and we're checking them. I think we just finished double checking everything in June to make sure they're all applied, and we didn't have any rollbacks. And we had one that hit, and they knew about it. They just didn't want to have that. So it doesn't matter whether you want it or not. It happens. The taxing entities will get their money.
So when we're doing subject to, Karen has a good question here. When we're working a subject to, are there particular title companies that seem to work better than others? Are you allowed to, if a client calls you and says, I'm going to be doing a subject to wrap, can you refer out a title company to me?
We will give them 3 options or more with people we know that do them well. We can't make a referral. We can just tell them, hey, these are people we see that do them well, and here's their information.
But yeah, we run into that. We run into title companies all the time that say, yes, we do this all the time. And then we get down to the brass tacks, and they don't do it all the time, and they don't know what it is. So, and that can change depending on the escrow officer too.
It's true. Escrow officers move around and go to different title companies, and I've known investors that will follow escrow officers to different title companies because they're good and they know how to do their files.
Are investors, if they're not doing if they're just doing an owner finance, are they allowed to? How do I want to put this? Are they allowed to hold their own escrows, or do you have to be licensed for that?
They can do it themselves if it's owned free and clear. I mean, if the homeowner is paying for it and its accounting's done for you, I don't know why someone would choose to. But everyone can do themselves. reporting credit and making sure you're staying compliant and sending out your statements. You just have to be on top of it and keep really good records. I know that we have a couple investors, their favorite part is, and it seems so minor to me, was that, we do the 1098s and 1099s, and they're not giving out their tax information for those that hold it within their own name, which I'm sure you train people not to do. But, we do have some that still do that.
So, I guess where I'm getting with that is I've talked to several investors over the years. They don't know how to hold escrow correctly. They don't know how to report that. They don't know how to report any of the aspect of servicing. So why is it important that we hire a company like yours? Or, in my case, or in most cases, I think it's usually the homeowner, the home buyer that's paying your fees. So why is it important? What kind of documents do you have to provide to the buyer, to the seller, and to the IRS?
Okay. Well, for the buyer, we're sending out the monthly mortgage statements. We're doing the escrow analysis, getting the taxes and insurance paid. If something goes awry and they need a copy of the insurance, obviously we have it. That came very true during our freeze, during Harvey. We're sending out, to emails and such, those tax document or insurance information. For the lender, we're providing the end of year tax statements, which is giving their their unpaid principal balances as of December 31st, a full breakdown of each property and how much interest was paid on each one. And we're doing the 1099s and the 1098s for them when we're also reporting credit. It also provides a layer of protection where if you're not up on doing everything and know how to get it all done, someone else is doing it for you and they're licensed to do that. And if it's being paid for and you're getting accounting out of it and the collections started and such, I don't know why people wouldn't.
Right. Well, you mentioned a while ago that it's a requirement that the monthly mortgage statement go out. Is that correct?
Yes,
What happens if
every
what
month.
happens if that statement does not go out?
Well, you're in violation of federal law.
Okay. Well, that's
And you can get a complaint against you with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
what happens if they don't do that. Is it a fine? Is it
It can go up to 100,000.
wow?
I'm sure that if it's, a one-time thing and mom and pops, but they're going to go back and ask you for records. And so whether it's a one-time thing or you haven't done it for the last year and you just sent them a receipt and didn't provide a breakdown of the payment between principal, interest, escrow, what the balance is every month, the interest rate, everything that's required in the escrow balance, it's you're not doing it correctly.
Wow. So,
You know.
I guess where I really want to take that is to make sure that anybody that's doing an owner finance or doing a wrap, you want to hire a professional. You want to hire an RMLO. Do y'all offer RMLO services yourself?
We do not. There's lots of wonderful RMLOs that are out there, and many that we work with and send paperwork over to us. So there are some really good owner finance RMLOs out there.
So and then they're going to work that up. They're going to work with you. They're going to work with the title company to make sure everything is in place. Make sure all the fees are there. Most investors I know will the servicing fee that your company charges will roll that into the payment, so it's free to the
Yep.
investor essentially. And then y'all also do. You're very good at this, but you also do great collections and late charges when that happens. And part of those late charges are passed on to the. Are they passed on, or do they? Is that part of your fee?
It's 50-50. We split it because I have a team of people calling, and that's how I justify them earning their salary is they're calling and getting collections and getting payments in the door. And so we split. We send half of it to the lender, and we keep half of the late fee, and make sure that we're getting them paid.
Very good. Very
The
good.
goal is to get everyone, they bought the house, they need to pay for the house.
Very good. So, so how long does this whole process take when somebody's doing needing you for a servicer?
You mean after closing?
Yeah, or say for instance we're going to close on a Tuesday. They're going to get you the information how far in advance, and how long does it take you to set up a new account?
As long as we receive a full package with everything we need to set it up, it's done in 1 to 2 business
Is
days.
that coming from the title company or does that come from the investor?
It depends. We have investors who have title companies scan over their setup docs too, and they have it come over as a complete package. We have other investors who get a PDF copy from the title company and they shoot them over and then to add their setup docs to us.
Very good.
So we have a portal they can drop them into so it's secure, and some do. Some of them mail them to us, and some just email.
The end buyer, the homeowner, the home buyer, um, how do they make their payments? What choices do they have on how they make their payments?
Oh, well, my favorite one is ACH because then nobody has to remember. It's just automatically done for them on the day they put down on the form. We have an ACH. They can go into our portal and make a payment right through our website. We have a third party where they can go into like a Walmart or an HEB, and we give them a number and they give it to the customer service over there, hand them cash, and their payment comes to us electronically through another portal. We have people who mail their payments in, and then we have some people actually come by our office and drop it in the lockbox mail slot, and a few that actually come in the door and say hi.
Wow, wow.
That was the best part, is we got to reopen our door since they released those restrictions on that.
Right. And y'all are located in the Garland area, is that right?
We're off of Broadway and La Prada, which becomes Windjoy's there. So it's 30 and Beltline Broadway, or La Prada and 635, and they just merge to a point, and that's where our office building is.
Do y'all service the full state of Texas?
Absolutely.
Do you go outside of the state of Texas?
We do. We're licensed in Arizona, Tennessee, and I believe it's Mississippi and Alabama are pending right now. We have our paperwork turned in.
Wow,
We're staying in the South, except for Tennessee, but we have a lender that we work with that picked up a bulk of properties there and asked us if we'd get licensed up there. So we did.
Very good, very good. Now you mentioned this at the very beginning, but how long has the company been in business?
As August REI since 2009, and I started servicing in 97.
Wow. Okay, there you go.
That would be 19, just to clarify.
Yeah. All right. All right. As we go along, if anybody here has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, raise your hand, or just speak up, and we'll get Amy to get get you an answer on those questions. When we as investors are working with the title company, the RMLO, which is a residential mortgage loan originator, by the way, for anybody on this call that doesn't know those acronyms, that's somebody that's writing the loan paperwork. And in Texas, we've got, what is it, SB 42 or 3? I went blank.
43.
43, okay.
43.
Yeah, okay. So that's some requirements on that. But once again, like Amy said a while ago, you've got to be crazy if you want to do your own loan documents and your own servicing, for when you have the buyer paying that anyway. When you get paid through, you mentioned HEB and Walmart or whatever, the service, the areas on that basis, is there an additional fee to the investor for that, or is that fee covered by the buyer?
That would be to the buyer. Our portal is free.
Okay.
To go through our portal is free. For us to ACH the borrower is free. It's the cash pay borrowers that go into the Walmart or the HEB. I believe the end service on that charges $295. We don't have a whole lot of people that use it, but we have some. I mean, you can always log into our portal and pay or send money orders. We have people that mail money orders to us and cashier's checks.
Right. Okay. We have a question here from B, and do you service land sale contracts? Explain what that is.
Yeah, hey guys. Sorry, I don't know how I got here, but I'm glad I did. So we have several, I guess you would say, rent to own contracts throughout the Midwest. And, at the end of a 30-year term, the deed transfers, but
Right.
they are, there's no note, and they sit in, the seller's name. Taxes and insurance are paid annually by the buyer slash renter. Is that something that you guys service, or do you only service notes?
Well, in Texas, because we're licensed in 3 states, I don't. In the Midwest, we're not a whole lot. We're Texas, Arizona, and Tennessee right now. In Texas, yes, we do. Is the answer. The short answer is yes, we do. In Texas, after 179 days, you have to re-up it because at 180 in Texas, you're required to transfer the deed or extend the term. But I know many areas, like such as Oklahoma, they don't have to. You just record them when they pay them off. Whether it be 30 years or if they make a principal pay down and pay down early, then you transfer it when they've paid it off at full. But yes.
My next question was, so I am due Arkansas, Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi. If I handed you a pile of properties and notes, would you service those?
The short answer is maybe, but what we've done is we look to see what the cost of licensing in the state is and how quickly we can recoup the cost of getting licensed in the state. And as long as we can make a profit at someone we're working with, that's how we ended up being licensed in Tennessee, is we had a lender who bought about 50 properties up there and asked us if we'd service them for them. So we, it was cost effective to be licensed and do it. So we did.
And then does it have to be, single family properties? I do a lot of commercial stuff, and it's the same thing,
Yeah, we do commercial, hard money, escrow loans, and traditional loans, also single family loans. We also service land. So
awesome.
it's just servicing a note basically, or a loan. All pretty much the same.
So, Amy, you mentioned hard money. What does that look like?
We have some hard money lenders that we service for. It's a different type of statement, because it's based on how much they have out already. So usually, for example, they're gonna lend out 250,000, and right now we have 105 out, and the interest rate's at 15. We're collecting it based on the number of days in that month, and if they do a draw mid-month, we enter the draw on the day that it went out, and it adjusts mid-month period for the interest, and we collect those and disperse the funds just the same. We usually collect taxes. Many times the insurance is done separately, and we're not collecting for that, just the tax escrow.
Okay, good deal. Is there a limit on the number of properties one investor can have you service? I mean, do you not want to have a bunch of risk, or it's really not a lot of risk for you, I guess, in the start. But you don't limit that out or anything?
No.
I've actually
we
had
have
that
a couple
question.
Oh, really? No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we have a couple of them that are over 300 apiece. So, no, I just impressed. Always excited when you see people growing their portfolio.
Absolutely. So you mentioned Arizona. Now they can do contract for deed out there, right?
Yes.
And you will service those the same as any other product. Yep. Okay. I get that question a lot in Arizona. I didn't know you were doing Arizona, and we seem to have a lot of questions coming from Arizona and the sub 2 area. They're doing a lot of sub 2s out there, and they're asking for servicing companies often.
I would agree with that. There's a lot coming from over there, and a lot of investors are in Texas that have gone to Arizona also.
Okay. Very good. All right. Once again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to chime in, and we'd love to get your questions answered on that.
Roger, I have a question.
Yes. Hey, Debbie.
If you're doing an owner, like an owner finance or a wrap, the person who's buying, the buyer of the home, has to carry their own insurance, correct? And you're
Yes.
listed as the loss payee on that?
Mortgagee, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And there, how do you get proof of that insurance being current from them?
Well, we
I mean,
pay it ourselves. It's paid up front. We're listed at so we'll just make up a name. So if it's ABC real estate company or real estate investments, and then it says in care of August REI and comes to our PO box, we're tracking it. So if it gets canceled,
I see.
we're following up with them. We also have the ability to force place insurance, and ours isn't like if you were going to Aquin and they're going to charge you $6,000. You know, some of them come in at $28 a month up to about $100, depending on, you know, the value of the house. But we have the ability to force place insurance. We have to, of course, send out the regulatory notices and give them 45 days to get their own insurance. And then the force place insurance is retroactive to the day of the lapse of coverage.
Is the forced place insurance replacement value or what they paid for the property?
It's replacement. It's not cash value. It's not what they paid for the property. It's to replace it.
Okay. Thank you.
And we've actually had a couple claims filed on those roof claims, of course, because we're in Texas. But yeah, it pays out. It does. You know, they cancel for different reasons. Like insurance companies are pulling out of Texas all the time, and they didn't bother to find a new insurance company. And since they're not renewing, and we know they're not renewing, and we're contacting them, and they're not giving that information. Sometimes we'll say, here are 3 agents that we know can write a great policy. Please call them. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Most of the time they do.
Yeah.
You know, or they'll say, can you do it with us? And so our escrow department, we have a guy that just sits on there. Well, it's actually two people, male and female, that only do insurance, and they'll pick up the phone and start calling agents with them on the phone so they can provide the information and get, you know, 2 or 3 quotes and pick one. Because first-time home buyers need a lot of hand-holding in the beginning to understand what's going on. But,
Absolutely.
it's, you know, sometimes they get canceled because they had things sitting against the house on the side. You know, and we're calling and, hey, you got to move the stuff off the side of your house, take a picture and send it to us so we can upload it to your insurance company, and they don't cancel you.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's wonderful that you can track it like that.
I love it. My favorite part is that we've gotten big enough. We've had forced place, I think, now for about 4 or 5 years. The ability to we had to reach a certain size before we could do that.
Great.
But it's a great benefit. And
Well, if and when I do it again, I'll be calling you.
well, thank you. As I say, it's a lot easier to sleep when you know there's hailstorms coming, and that if somebody's insurance has lapsed and we don't know about it yet, we know that the forced place will be retroactive to that day. If we're holding escrow, we know it's retroactive to that date. So I used to, in the early days, you know, say a lot of things at night. Please don't hit all the houses. Make sure everyone's insurance is current before I go to sleep. Please, please.
Feel like
sure
I've
it's
been
current.
praying over my air conditioners this summer.
Right? I actually had 4 sparkling waters explode in my car today. I left them in there, went inside to pick up some lunch, and came back, and 4 of them had exploded. It's that hot.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So
I know.
Go ahead.
I waited on a tow truck Monday for 2.5 hours in 105-degree weather. I can totally identify with what you're saying.
No, that's worse. I'm sorry. You had to be at 105. I went inside a restaurant and picked up my food to go.
I survived.
Yeah. Yes, Roger?
Thank
Well, I
you.
was going to say, if y'all want to look in the chat area, I've put the emails in there for new accounts at august.rei.com. and lender services at rei.com. So is there an office number that they can call to reach your switchboard?
972
You never call yourself.
767. No, I don't. 972 767 9219. I'm going to look on my phone real quick. I'm pretty positive that's correct. I'm sorry.
If not, somebody might
I'll
be
call
getting a
myself.
call. So,
Yes, that's our phone number.
okay, so that's in the chat area, so you can reach out. Amy's company is wonderful to work with. Her people know what they're doing and how things work. If you're in Texas, and I'm sure you might be this strong in the in Arizona and Tennessee, and soon to be this strong in Mississippi and Alabama. Sorry, I've got a dog that has a cough. But when you talk real estate servicing in Texas, literally almost 100% of the time, August REI will come up as what people are using. So you are definitely dominant. I don't know if you're dominant in the numbers, but you're dominant in the community, should I say. So y'all have done a great job with that.
Sounds good.
So,
Well, thank you.
so does anybody have any other questions? We've been on this for about a little over 30 minutes. So if we don't have any other questions, Amy, did you have any closing comments? Anything you wanted to put out?
Well, I mean, you explain how to set up the wrapped mortgages and the sub twos. So, pay attention when he teaches. He does a great job. I guess the upside is we also report credit, which is a motivation to get people to pay. And they sometimes use their newfound credit to get new trucks and flat screen TVs that are curved. Very seldom, for unknown reasons, do they refinance. They don't usually use it for that. So if that's what you're needing someone to do and we're reporting the credit, you need to let them know that so they're not buying their new truck instead.
Gotcha. So if we were going to get creative on our note and say we're going to do a 40-year note with first 10 years of interest only, no principal payments for the first 10 years, is that something that's pretty easy to set up or in your system, or how do we work that if we're doing that?
You just would write it up and we'll set it up. I mean, it's pretty easy for us to do that part. Just make sure you're compliant and that everyone agrees.
And the RMLO will walk us through that on being the compliant part, right?
That would be the Armalo side, yes. That's not on we're on the back side of it, but yes.
Good deal. So,
important part of the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, I want to make sure people on this call and people listening to this recording understand it is not a good idea to do your own servicing. And all the bells and whistles that Amy's company does. Most of us as individual investors, we don't do that. We don't do that well. We had a comment a while ago about not sending out the monthly statements or not sending out the various forms that are needed. And you're also reporting to the credit bureau, which is huge. And lots of different ways to pay. You don't have you don't have a person buying a house beating on your door at 11 o'clock at night trying to make a payment to the investor, So
right. I would say people seem to really like our portal, logging in lenders and borrowers to log in and just take a look because it's updated twice a day and they can pop in there and take a look and see. It also has a conversation log. So, if we've talked to your borrower and they've, said we get a PTP, a promise to pay in, also known as a PTP.
Mm-hmm.
We have a PTP and it says, change jobs and it's going to be 3 days late. And, your borrower always pays on the 1st and we're depositing money on the 4th. And it's the 4th and you're thinking, I don't see any money yet. And you log in and it says borrower will be paying on the 4th or 3rd this month. So, it's going to be still before the grace period, but it's coming in a little later because there's notes in there. It's, we tell people the most important thing you can do is communicate what's going on. It just is the most important part.
Very good. Very good. Well, good deal. Amy, thank you so much for being on here tonight. I don't see any other questions in the chat. If anybody has any questions, you can reach out to the company by new accounts at augustrei.com, August as in the month, or lender services at augustrei.com, or her phone number at 972-767-9219. And so they're easy to work with. I've never had any buyer come back and complain or anything. It's very smooth. They, like I said, I know tons of people that use your services, and everybody's very happy as everything goes along. So just thank you for doing what you do, making our life easier as investors. And if you have any questions, you can log your website is augustrei.com. So
It is.
they can log on to that. Oh, Karen.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was trying to log in. Amy, where did you say we go to look to see the messages that have been sent to our borrower who hasn't paid?
You go to the little info sign. It has a little I for info, and you can click on it. You can actually send messages through the portal to us also.
Oh, okay, awesome.
And they'll come in and pop into our portal, and we can answer them that way. It also uploads the tax statements at the end of the year. So if you misplace them, you can just log in there and download them again for your
Well, this is
CPA.
so cool. I can see the collection calls. I can see where you reach somebody at our office, and so this is really cool. Yeah, did not know this. I did not know that this was a feature. I didn't even know y'all had an online portal, to be honest, until 2.5 months ago. And I'm like, oh, Adam said just go to the online portal. I'm like, can you set me up? Very helpful.
I'm not going to say someone didn't read their welcome letter, but
Well, I'm not going to say that somebody doesn't read their emails or welcome letters.
well, they're busy getting properties, so
There you go. We'll give them a break. So
All right.
this is awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm excited about this.
Good deal. That's good to know.
all.
And once again, Amy, thank you so much for investing your time with us tonight. And
Thank you very much.
if anybody has any questions, you can reach out to August REI. You can go onto their website, ask questions, read your welcome letter when you get a new loan in place. Lots of good information there. And other than that, we're going to go ahead and shut the call down. And once again, Amy, thank you so much for being on here tonight and taking your time to give some information out.
Thanks for having me.